Aloha.
Aloha.
And welcome to Wisdom Dialogues with Hope Johnson. Coming to you from Upper Kapoho on the beautiful big island of Hawaii. Yay!
Yay! Celebrate, celebrate.
Hooray! There's no correction for action. Absolutely no correction for action. You may hear or find out of a way that seems better to do things. That doesn't mean you were doing them wrong before. It's a very important point, because if you think there's correction for actions, then you think of yourself as a doer, and that that automatically deems you guilty in your mind. If you can do things, then you're automatically guilty, and what you think is better right now may not be better later on to you. It may prove itself to be not so good. Since there's no doer and there's no doership, the actions are just flowing. Naturally, as a matter of course, in an illusory world, there's going to seem to be that some things are better than others that you can do, or some ways of doing things are a better way of doing things, maybe more convenient, maybe they feel better, anything like that. But the actions are taking care of themselves, and you've never been capable of doing anything before now, ever. And you may hear people say, oh, you know what? I think I know of a better way to do something. That's a suggestion. It can be taken or left behind. And it doesn't really mean anything, but when we take it as if that means that we were doing it the wrong way before, that's how the person gets identified. That's how the person gets identified as an individual in a world, as if you can get things wrong. And then you're going to have the perception of yourself getting things wrong because you set it up like that. If you set it up like you can do things wrong, then it's going to keep on pouring out like that. The analyzing, the self-analyzing. Let me see. Could I have made a better choice? The choice is choiceless in the world. There's no choice in the world. The choice is in the moment. It's only in this moment. And the choice is between the truth of who you are or making illusions true. And you make it as if there are choices in the past. Like you could have made a different choice at some time in the past. That's making illusions true. You make it as if there's a difference between choices in the world. That's the same thing. There's no difference. It actually doesn't matter which choice is made in the world because there's no world, you guys. It's really assembled in the brain. It's put together like pieces. It reminds me of Minecraft, a game the kids play. They just put things together. They get blocks and they put houses together. So it's like these little blocks, almost like building blocks. It builds all the people and all the circumstances. And the mind puts everything together. So there's no choices. That's for personal identity. When you make the choices meaningful. When your mind is aware that all of the choices are meaningless, then you can make the real choice. The only choice that has any kind of bearing on anything. It still is a choice in the illusion, but it ultimately ends illusions. When you make the choice for truth, it's bringing illusions to their end. Oh, hello. Welcome. If there seems to be a choice up for you right now, like for instance, if you have some kind of some dilemma, two things, one way I can go this way, or I can go that way. Know that that's not a choice for you to make. That's a choice made in consciousness. You're only viewing the choices that are made in consciousness. And if you identify as the one who's making the choice, then you miss the one choice that you can make. The one choice that makes all the difference. But what disheartens people is that they think that the choices they make in this world are meaningful, and somehow if you make the right choices in the world, it's going to lead to your salvation. You're going to be forever free and happy. It's never going to happen, and not in an illusory world. There's only one choice that'll bring you back to reality, and that's the choice for truth in the midst of illusion. And the only reason you have to make that choice is because you chose something else. Normally, creation is not about making any choices at all. It's just creating. It's just instant creating. It's not about making choices between things. And all of your creations are eternal. But in an illusion, in a dream world, the only creative power you have is that choice, the ability to choose the truth when faced with deception, when faced with what denies the truth. Now, you have a real easy way to tell if you're denying the truth. Basically, if you're being led by the ego and denying the truth. And that's that contrast of feeling. So you either feel ingratitude, joyful acceptance, appreciation side, or you feel the fearful side, which is anxiety, frustration, even a little irritation, anything at all. That's the contrast. And when you know the contrast and you're aware of what the contrast is, you can always know when you've gone to the choice for this world. And, there is a choice for this world over the truth that upholds the world in your perception. The only reason this world can even be viewed that's hiding your sight of what's really here is a desire for it. Desire for the world. And that's very fearful for the ego, for you to let go of that desire and actually desire what's really yours. There's a lot of defensiveness against this, against knowing this. There's not anything really hard that has to be done. There's not a battle with the ego. The ego doesn't really exist. There's no battle to be won. It's basically going to be seen through in laughter. Because the ego doesn't mean anything, and everything that the ego puts up as a defense is completely meaningless. It's all about conflict and separation. What does that mean? That's not something that's meaningful to you. You can't make meaning of a world that's made to make you out to be separate. It's a conflicted world. It's always like something is against you. Something or someone is against you. Someone has slighted you. Someone has taken advantage of you. What if I'm taking advantage of someone? Oh, that'd be terrible, There's just all these thoughts about separation. Really, we can't harm each other. We can do no harm to each other. And like I said, the brain is putting our images together. So from the perception of the mind, everyone and everything is coming. That means that no one can arise in your perception without you having invited them there. basically put them together in that form, in the way that they come to you, in the exact way that they come to you, so you can see. When your reactions are just allowed to flow, you see more. So knowing that the person that's presented to you and whatever they're saying or seem to be doing or anything like that, that you made them like that, then your reactions become more interesting to you. There's a curiosity about the reactions instead of an attempt to resist them. Oh no, this person shouldn't be here. This is bad that they're saying this thing to me. The mind gets caught up with this idea that you have to defend yourself. Something outside of you is doing something. I had one man telling me yesterday about how President Trump is he's doing so much stuff to me. And I'm just watching the person, and then being there for that expression. See? There's no argument about it. There's no need to argue about it. The expression can present itself. And you can see the trouble with, it's obvious, you can see the trouble with making someone outside of you to be the villain. And the expression can go through itself, play itself out. And in that, without any sense of resistance or agreeing, that's the thing, the ego presents you with a couple of choices there too, doesn't it? Oh, this person is acting like someone's outside of himself. That's not good. I need to teach him something. Or, just agreeing with it. Oh yeah, that's right. President Trump, gosh, he's really doing some shit to us. The ego presents you with a couple of options there to get into conflict. But there's another option. Not just embracing whatever it is that's arising. Embracing in your reaction, even the thoughts that come. Even the reaction to someone exploding about an external force. Because all of those reactions are expressing what you made. Aloha. The person that seems to be presenting to you that there's a problem in the world is actually coming from your own mind. And the awakening is like a world awakening in your mind. So it's in giving everyone the space to awaken as they do with their guide, though. They don't need you. It's funny. They don't need a teacher like that. Whatever you say, it's teaching your own mind. The reactions that you get, that's also teaching your own mind. So in knowing that they don't need a teaching, they don't need a correction, where can the correction be made? You open up to where the correction can really be made. That's how the awakening happens. And it's the whole world that awakens in your mind. Like before you see reality, the world awakens in your mind. That means you allow everyone who's expressing as if, oh, there's an ego over there. Do you know it takes your ego to make that? There's not an ego over there. There's also no one suffering outside of yourself. It's all for you. And look, it doesn't mean that you're guilty because you see someone having some kind of an emotional turmoil thing. It doesn't make you guilty. That's the way the ego looks at it. It's not that you're guilty, it's that you have a purpose. You have an important purpose, and that's for awakening this mind. If you're making yourself guilty in it, or feeling like, oh, this is too much, that's also the ego. Oh, this is too much. The whole world? Holy shit. Yeah, the whole world is actually, that's your mind awakening. You know, you're actually seeing your mind. So you could say, you know, right now, well, we're seeing this COVID thing. Yeah, you could say that's like the throes of awakening. That is freaking awesome. It's time to be stoked. It's not time to be scared. You know, it's time to be scared for a lot of people probably, but it's not time to be scared for us who are focused on awakening the mind. It's not like that. And the only thing that's going to make you scared of this thing, or scared of how they're going to come down, or any of the different things that's, you know, I've heard lots of stories of what may be happening. Only thing that's going to make you feel afraid is wanting this world. And wanting this world is really wanting nothing. Wanting this world to be better. Wanting this world to be a better place. It's really wanting nothing, because that's not what this world is for. The world is not for meeting your separate desires. All these separate desires are for is viewing, and they're like directional for the scene. That's all. The thoughts are coming together and either meeting those desires or not. But you know, that doesn't have to be any of your concern. You don't have to make it your concern. Because if you're only focused on awakening in the moment, then it really doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what choices anyone makes. It doesn't matter what anyone seems to be doing to you. It doesn't matter whether you get that thing that you wanted, or that relationship that you wanted, or anything like that. It's not going to matter. You know, when reality dawns again, reality dawns on the mind again, all of this will be forgotten. It's completely meaningless. But it's the moment to moment willingness to see through. And it's only willingness to see it differently than the way you've already interpreted it. And just keep on being willing to see it differently until you get that sense of relief. It's like an instant sense of relief. It's like, there's nothing else. There's nothing else that can satisfy like that. There's nothing in the world that can satisfy like that. There's nothing to seek after. The world doesn't have anything to offer you in the way of salvation. And you can't just say, you know, give me my release. Just give me my release. Because it's a choice that you make in the moment. It's through the particulars of the illusory life where things seem to get heavy. Any kind of heaviness. And this goes on all day long. So it's like every day, every moment is super special in this way. Because the energy fluctuations are all the time. It seems like there's all these kinds of reasons why you shouldn't be at peace right now. Why you shouldn't be wholly joyful right now. All these reasons will occur to you through the particulars of your life. And some of them may seem like they're very heavy, like, whoa, I'm going through a really heavy time right now, you know. And when it seems like you're going through a really heavy time right now, that's great. It's for a deeper awakening. It's to be celebrated. If you don't find yourself celebrating, if you don't find yourself in celebration, then it's just time to ask for help. That's a true prayer. Let me see this clearly. Let me see this the way the Spirit would see this, and not the way I made it look. Because there's no problem. There's actually absolutely no problem in the world. Every perceived problem comes from one thought, the thought that you separated yourself from the truth, from reality, from eternal life. Every perceived problem comes out of that. If you get embroiled with a problem and look for a solution in that way, as if the solution is your salvation, then that's a distraction that keeps you distracted. If you notice that the problem that you perceive is really caused by the first thought, that thought of separation, the solutions can take care of themselves. When you know the solutions aren't your salvation, you're not using this whole perception of a problem to distract yourself, but you're using the perception of a problem to awaken yourself. Instead of, what will I do about this person who's threatening me? It's more like, how can I see this differently? Because I know there's nothing threatening in the world. I know there's nothing threatening at all. I'm not capable of being threatened, actually. So if I'm having a dream of being threatened, that must be a problem in the perception. If I'm dreaming like that, that has to be a problem, an error that can be corrected in my mind. And that's responsibility. That's taking responsibility for what's being perceived. It must be my error. Yay! Because now it can be corrected. If it's not my error, then I'm screwed. The whole world is out to get me, basically. The bugs, everything. The government, the IRS. In an illusory world, everything devours everything else to survive. You're like a sitting duck. But there's no one actually in the world. There's no one actually in the world. It's like virtual reality. It's fun that they came up with virtual reality now. It's a really good symbol. It is like virtual reality. This is the body is a sensory apparatus, you can say. So it gives you the sense that you're in a body. But you're not in a body. You just getting the sense of it. Getting the sense that there's a body and there's someone in the body. And that brings up a sense of fear, doesn't it? This thing seems pretty vulnerable. Vulnerable to disease, vulnerable to different kinds of threats, attacks, aging. You know, if nothing else gets you, just aging. It falls apart. It's funny. It is. It's funny that we're propped up like that in these mortal bodies as if they mean something. And you know, we dress them up, make them look pretty, put some stuff on it, got some earrings. And there's no problem with any of it. It's just like, do it with laughter, though. It's silly. It's really silly. And it's like, even, why do you want to make it look good, you know? So you could, like, fish for some more bodies. gather some bodies around it, make you feel like you are, now you have, you're not alone, you're not lonely because you got more bodies that are adoring your body. That's really where the drive comes from. You know, that's where that drive comes from. It's funny. You know, is it and just laugh at the tendencies. It's not like anyone's wrong for doing anything. You know, that's not what it comes to. It's not like you can't dress it up, work it out, feed it, quote unquote, right, whatever that means. But just do it with laughter. Because really, what you see of a body is make-believe, is totally manufactured by the mind, and it's meant to evoke a certain feeling. And it's a feeling that's associated with separation. The body really has one purpose, and that's like as a communication device. That's the way A Course in Miracles puts it. That's the wording that resonates for me. You may come up with some other wording for you, but as a communication device, and real communication is only sharing love. It's showing, it's demonstrating, it's for demonstrating that there's no separation, that what we made is not real, and that there's really no separation here. When there seems to be something where someone has overstepped their bounds or something like that, and they even may think that they deserve some kind of retaliation from you, or at least some harsh words or something like that, you know. And there's a willingness to just demonstrate what the truth is, to use the body to demonstrate what the truth is, not teach. Teaching is automatic. Everything you say is teaching. It's teaching your own mind. But to actually demonstrate that there's no separation, that there's no loss. You know, what happens when someone comes over to your house and takes your very favorite thing that you like to put on your body? Let's say it's a shirt, or it's a crown, or it's something like that. This is give you a practical idea. Oh, how could they have taken that thing? That's where you soften up. The thing is meaningless. The thing is completely meaningless. It's the love that's shared. That's the true communication. Not to teach anyone. This is teaching too. When you tell someone, how could you do it like that? Or even a question, why did you do it like that? When it comes with that kind of energy. See, it's not so much in the words, it's in the energy. Even a question like that, it's teaching the person that they could do something wrong. Now, that person isn't separate from you. So that's teaching your own mind that you could do wrong. Not only that, but you could be a victim to someone else's wrongdoing. This is how we're teaching and learning all the time. With all of our expressions. And you know, when you see that you're teaching like that, you can always change your mind. You can always just change your mind. Because you can go with a guide that loves you, and your expression will change too. What? You know what I just said? That wasn't about you. That was about me. You haven't done anything to me. I'm so glad you haven't done anything to me. It's good to know that. Thank you. It's nice to see you again. It's just like with children, you know, there's an idea that they need to be taught how to be. It's just like that with everyone. There's an idea that they need to be taught how to be, but really they're learning from your expression. And everything that people come to you with is what you taught them. That's how you taught them to be. You can say that's how you taught them to be. By teaching your own mind, and then that's an expression of your mind. So it's not to change the people. It's not to try to get them to change their behavior. If you have a person that's yelling, maybe in your household, or a boss or a friend, and, you know, they maybe go bipolar or something and start yelling sometimes. It's not to change that person. It's to change your mind about what that means. It's to change your mind from the projecting mind to the appreciating mind. Because once you go to appreciation for them and what they're offering, then you can receive it in a way that's healing for your mind. That's the hardest thing for the ego, to move to appreciation from a sense of condemnation. And you can appreciate the person who seems to be demonstrating bipolar, then you can learn. Then you can learn something. When you're not appreciating that, then it's projecting, and it's just projecting more of the same. And that's really what is upholding the world. It's a lot of projecting. It keeps it spinning. It's like spinning stories. Not spinning like a globe, Chitta. To my flat earth friends, spinning stories makes the illusion of a world. So it's these stories about ego and what they're doing and what's happening over here. You know, when it all becomes general to you and meaningless to you, then you're not upholding it anymore. You're letting it fall. So these stories will play out, but they'll crash. They won't keep on going. They won't keep on upholding this world. And that's what we want. We really, everyone in their heart wants to see through this world. But there's this desire, you can say it's a deceptive desire that wants to uphold the world and get something for the individual self. That's a deceptive desire. It makes it seem like, I want this and I want that. And how am I going to get this for myself? It's as if we stole this time to get something for ourselves. But really, we gave this time to ourselves, the time of a lifetime. We gave this time to ourselves to see through the sense of separation and restore the mind to reality. And through a lifetime, through an illusory lifetime, that's the only way to see. So each of us is going to make the choice to see through. And, you know, don't make it heavy. I know it sounds like it's big, but don't make it heavy, really. It's given to you to do because you can. And if it seems hard, that's also just a thought. It's not hard to choose the truth. It's really not hard. It's hard to the ego to choose the truth. Because that means death to the ego if you're not pursuing your separate desires. If you're not defending yourself against those who are preventing you from getting your desires met. You see that? When you have separate desires, when you think that you have these desires, there's always going to be those in the way. Those that need to be taught or otherwise eliminated before you can get what you want. That's how we end up with wars and stuff like that. It's all ego. That's the ego training. And when just one person is willing to see through their own desires, it has this kind of ripple effect. Not only in the mind, unseen in the mind, unseen, but through your relations, through your relating. People see an example of that. It's like, oh, just let it be. Let them and let them have a pass. People ask me, Hope, you just let everyone off the hook. You don't hold anyone accountable for anything that they do. Aren't they just going to all take advantage of you? No, that's really not how it works, actually. Actually, when you're holding up a bunch of defenses, it's like, hey, come over here and take advantage of me. I want you to come over here and take advantage of me. I need that. I need to see through that. No, it's not like that. But when people get the impression that they might have done something, they stepped on my toe, for instance. It's like, it brings great joy to my heart to let them know that they haven't done anything. You haven't done anything. And it's fun and funny when it seems to be like maybe something that costs a lot of money. That's fun. We talked about it before. I think everyone here knows there's no such thing as money. I think everyone knows that. Money is a really useful tool for the ego to make it seem like scarcity is possible. To make it seem like you can make choices that can harm you. They can lead you to financial ruin, for instance. So when someone seems to do something and it costs you thousands of dollars, for instance, that may seem like, wow, they've really done something. They've really done something now. That's the hook of the ego. How can you do that? You take food from my mouth. And that same kind of fervent, oh my goodness, how could they do that to me, can turn into the greatest joy of just allowing that. You haven't done anything. It's okay. That's true forgiveness. Nothing happened. And there's freedom in that. It doesn't mean you're going to have less money or more money. all the amount of money that you seem to have is exactly what you need for awakening the mind. It's not going to be any different than that. Whether you let someone have a pass or not, it's not going to come out any different for you in the end. And it's not going to make it any easier or harder for you to awaken depending on how much money you have. So really, no one can harm you in that way. And on the same token, if it seems like someone is accusing you of having harmed them, either financially, physically, you stepped on their toe, for instance. I don't know, you were playing with a knife and stabbed them, for instance. You kissed their boyfriend or girlfriend. Someone's accusing you of having done wrong. Don't take these concepts and use them as a weapon. Don't use these concepts as a weapon against them. You made them to express to you like that way. Hey, you harmed me. Hey, you harmed me. Let it go to gratitude and not to teaching in a situation like that. Don't let it turn to, no, don't you know I can't harm you? We're one. Someone with experience with that. Don't let me tell you. Maybe you need to learn from experience that doesn't work. But when you go to gratitude, the words are going to come out perfectly. You're going to be able to meet that with compassion. That person accusing you of doing something to them is also coming out of your own mind. And you can feel the resonance of it in your body's energy field. So in allowing compassion for that energy, that upset feeling, that's an upset feeling. Don't pretend like someone's coming up to you and accusing you of doing something and there's no upset feeling. They're perceiving an upset person. The upset feeling is coming from your body's energy field. If you can't feel that, then you're missing something. That's all. That's why, it's showing up in the perception. That's why it's showing up like that. You didn't notice it. Oh, you didn't notice it before. So now it's out there to show you, like, here's a picture of it. Here's what it looks like. Ah! No, that's not me. That's them. There's a lot going on in every moment when it comes to this. The world is meaningless, but there's a lot going on, as in the information that's coming in, the information that's available through which you can teach your mind that the truth is all there is. And that's how you teach your mind that the truth is all there is. When you perceive a person that seems to be outside of yourself and they are upset, they're expressing an upset within you. When you perceive a suffering person, the suffering is within you. So you don't have to be afraid of that suffering person. You also don't have to teach them that there's no reason to suffer, but you can most certainly demonstrate that. You can communicate that through the body's energy. So if there's a perception of suffering and you recognize that suffering is within me, and there's compassion offered from within, that's the communication. That's the awakening. That's exactly what everyone needs. And that's the service to the world that really means something. You may see the kind of service to the world. I don't know. There's probably all kinds of good works going on. But it looks like, wow, they're really doing a good service to the world. Maybe they're helping with the homeless, or maybe they're helping single mothers or something like that, which is all great. It's all the mind playing out too. So behind that, beneath that, there's compassion. There's compassionate communication that can happen. And whether or not anyone finds themselves physically doing anything that seems to be helping the world, the greatest service to the world is your own mind awakening, because the world is awakening in your mind. not serious. The world isn't serious. It's really laughable. And you're pure joy, so it's okay to laugh. Laugh at yourself, the image that you made of yourself, the idea that you can make mistakes or be better than anyone, be the one who knows how to do things right or the one who always screws it up. Doesn't matter. It's all the same. All the bodies come from the same mind. They have a certain uniqueness to them. And they're all perfectly placed in the mind exactly where they need to be for the mind to awaken. No one's out of place. No one's not quite as they should be. They don't need any tweaks. The world doesn't need you to change any of your habits. You'd say the world needs you to change your habit of thought about yourself. The thought that, oh, if I just change this habit or make this new habit, I'll be so much better. That's a world thought. It doesn't need you feeding into that. Feeding more energy into the idea that if I just get a little better, if I stop reacting like that. Look at why you're reacting like that. It's thought, it's belief. Notice the sting when someone says your name in a derogatory way. Ooh. Or a little bit of pride when someone says your name in a way that you'd like to see yourself. All those reactions speak to what you think about yourself. All those reactions can be used to undo your self-belief, what you made of yourself. They can help you. Alertness to your reactions to the different fluctuations in the energy field can help you to communicate. To show people, to show everyone that only love is real. Because when you show everyone, you're showing yourself. Everyone who's looking at you is yourself looking at you. Isn't that fun? So it's not like there's anyone judging you. No one can judge you. You're not something that's capable of being judged. But the common thought of the ego is that you are judging me. They're judging me right now. They're looking at me and maybe thinking my ears are too pointy or something. Teeth are too big. Maybe they pick up their phone too much. That's another one. Well, they pick up their phone too much. People in front of me pretty often. I don't even think about it. I don't notice it. They pick up their phone and then get self-conscious about it. Sorry, I just have to. Oh, no problem. But But that's an ego thing. I know I've seen that also go on in my own consciousness too, where it's like I feel like I want to have a smoke, but I don't want someone to see me have smoke. You know, something like that. There's no one seeing you but yourself, and it's your lack of acceptance for yourself that's presenting this judgment. Even if the other person seems to be judging, you know. I had one friend that told me how her husband was like, God, you're just like always on your phone. I wish you would put that fucking phone down, you know? And she's like, wow, this judgment that's coming from him about my phone. And then she realized, oh, that judgment is really coming from me. It's not coming from him at all. I was feeling like I shouldn't be on my phone so much. And then there's a person to tell me that I shouldn't be on my phone so much. And then it's like, and then it's like I'm projecting onto him like he's doing something to me. No, I'm not on my phone too much. I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to do this, and there's no need to explain because nothing's happening. Nothing is happening. But when you realize that the other person's judgment is really coming from you, it's like, oh, thank you. There's gratitude for that. Thank you for saying that. I'm watching that. I'm alert to it. I know about it. Thank you for expressing what was on my mind about myself. And, that's the way the ego works, to make it seem like there's something that you shouldn't be doing. They call binge watching. That's a guilty connotation. Binge watching movies. Right? Binge watch this movie on Netflix and eat a bunch of popcorn. And then feel really bad about it later. All of the things that you perceive yourself doing can be done without the guilt. That's the thing. They can be done without the guilt. And any changes that need to be made, like if it seems like your life would be happier, maybe if you watched a little bit less movies, or maybe smoked a little bit less, or something like that, that all coalesce on its own. It doesn't need any help from you. It doesn't need guilty consciousness. See, to the ego, guilty consciousness is salvation. Because if you don't feel guilty about it, nothing's going to change. That's not true. Actually, it makes it a heck of a lot more difficult to make a change while you're feeling guilty. Because the guilt holds you in that pattern. It's like you're not free.
But even if you change on the surface, does that help?
You don't have a choice in that. It's meaningless. It doesn't do anything. That's what I'm saying. So there's no reason to feel guilty at all. There's no reason to feel guilty at all. And even the surface will change to reflect more of the happiness that you are, the joy that you are, when there's allowing for it. Even the surface projection. It's just that it's not up to you to make the change. The change is occurring naturally. It's natural. But what makes it very unnatural is the guilt. That's very unnatural. So that's to hold you in a certain kind of pattern. So when you take it as if, oh, I said I was going to stop smoking, but then here I am smoking again. When you take it as if something like that, or I said I was going to limit my Netflix to 2 hours, and here I am with 10, you take it as something like that. You put pressure on the mind. It's like a pressure on the mind and this sense of separation, and there's no doing anything different. It's just the same thing. It's the same cycle over and over again, and it seems like it takes so much power and willpower to make a difference. Oh, it takes so much willpower to do this or stop doing this thing. And that's ego. That's hard. That makes you tired. That tears you back. It's aging, everything. Sickness, there's no need for that. I swear I'm going to go on this diet, or I'm going to have my fast, for instance. I swear it's like tomorrow's the day or next week or whatever. Those things just occur to you. And the funny thing is, if you find yourself eating a certain way and following the laws that you made of nutrition, you find yourself doing that. And then it's like, oh, this really works. I'm really getting the results that I want. And then you find yourself not doing according to your laws that you set in place. And it's cause for upset. It's cause for, I don't like myself. I'm not following that law that I made about how to have a good and healthy body, or how to be financially stable, or how to be a good parent or have a relationship. All those laws are meaningless. All the laws that we put in place, they're totally meaningless. And there's only, you could say, God's law, or the law of love, that stands eternal and takes care of everything. Takes good care, way better care of your body, for instance, than you, than your ideas of what it takes to keep you young, vibrant, healthy, all of that kind of stuff. Your ideas are leading to death. Your ideas are always leading to death. And the law of God, the law of love, is leading to eternal life. So it comes back to, what do I want? Do I want to use my mind to try to get what I think I want? Or do I want to use my body for communication? Relinquish all responsibility for my body and what it does. What it eats, what it drinks, what it watches, what it says. Relinquish the control over the body to the spirit. Let the spirit guide. It doesn't matter. Wait a minute, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what comes of this, and I never had a say in it. Oh, you've done a really good job with your body. There's no say in it. Oh, you look like you've been working out. Cool. No, there's no right or wrong about that. It's just that no one has a say in it. What'll be taken automatically is, oh, I better keep working out. Now I got this weight on my shoulders. I better keep going. What if I break my leg? There's no problem with it, with any of it. There's no problem with the doing of any of it. Even the scheduling of it. Scheduling a workout, for instance, no problem. You like organizing your meals, you set up your meals, everything like that. That's your viewing that. That's not you. It's in the mind. where the fuckery happens. It's as if you missed one of those things, you missed one of those pointers that you set up for yourself, then, that's a bad mark. There's no such thing as time either, but we make appointments, right? We make appointments, and then if people don't show up at the appointed time, there's like all hell to pay. Unless you didn't want them to come. But all that's just for play too. All of the rules that we think we have, social rules, we just made them up. They're just for play. So if anything deviates from those, watch your reaction. It's fun. Oh, this isn't going the way I planned it to go. Oh, what am I doing eating a brownie when I thought I was fasting today? Dropping rocks in the middle of wisdom dialogues. He does it every week. The easier you are with yourself, as in this willpower thing, this ego willpower thing, easier you are about that, all those things on the surface take care of themselves. All those things that you think you want, they just go ahead and take care of themselves. And then you could use that willpower, even that ego willpower, and turn it on itself. Use that willpower to look at your reactions to what you're perceiving. Whereas before, you're taking the ego's willpower and go, okay, I'm going to use this willpower to stop smoking or eat better or something. And you can use that same force and turn it into watching your reaction. Even in that moment, there's a reaction there. That thought is coming with a reaction. That thought, I'm going to use my willpower to do this. Today's the day I'm gonna turns into this moment is the moment I'm going to be aware of how I'm feeling. I'm going to be open to guidance. I'm going to be open to receiving the compassion that's always there for me, but which I avoid because I want to make something of myself. I can't have that compassion yet because I'm not worth it yet. First, I have to fill in the blank. You could be on your 10th hour of Netflix and receive the compassion. God doesn't care. God doesn't know that there's even a Netflix, really. You could say all God knows is that one of God's children deviated in thought and doesn't know where they are. One of God's children is lost, basically. The details of it, the specifics of it, that's nothing. You could have found yourself as a murderer in this lifetime. It's the same. The saint and the sinner, exactly the same to God. All God knows is that your mind deviated from the truth. And all God knows is that you need truth. You need compassion. And to allow that compassion is simply a matter of surrendering your will that you have with the ego. Self-analyzing. I really don't want that. I really don't want that to happen. For instance, like I really don't want to be 250 pounds, for instance. That thought hurts you. I really don't want to be what? Broke ass poor, maybe. Some people don't want to be a millionaire because they think that's evil, you know. But it's just not wanting, and not wanting something is a fear of it. It's the same thing as wanting. There's a fear of that, and in that fear of it, that's where the ego plays. What about just letting it become whatever it becomes because it doesn't mean anything?
How can it be that? I feel my involvement influences all.
Your involvement as in what?
The one I believe I am ripples the stillness that is.
But it doesn't mean anything. The whole thing is an illusion. You don't have to play into that. You can, the effects that you see that it's making in the world are really no effects at all. The worldly effects that seem to be made by your involvement in the world is really meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. It has no effect. The only thing with an effect here is love. Everything else is going away. It's passing. It's just passing. So there's nothing that you've ever done. There's nothing that you've ever done that has had any real effect. Only love has an effect. That's where guilt comes in. That's where the ego plays on the mind. It's as if you could have made a choice, made something happen that affected things. There's nothing real being affected here. It's all for learning. It's all for seeing who you are. That's all. It's not for any other purpose. The ego would use it to make you guilty. See? See that and laugh. even the past, what you saw that had an effect is playing on your mind right now. It's projected right now. It didn't happen. There's no past. There's no such thing as time. So what seems to have gone before is to play on you as if you've done it wrong. You've made a mistake. You've made a grave mistake. And it's all to hide that you think you've made a really big mistake separating yourself from reality. It's all to hide that you think that you made that mistake. And you didn't. Yes.
When you were saying, having like a fearful thought, say like, I don't want to be 250 pounds.
Yeah.
You, notice yourself having that thought. What is like the easiest way to,
Laughter. Laughter. It's hilarious. That is just hilarious. It's just an ego cropping up a fear. And the way the ego would have you take that is, I don't want to be 250 pounds. Therefore, I need to make some plans. Now I need to come up with what's the best way to eat. When should I eat? When should I not eat? When should I exercise? Now you got a lot of shit to do because you believe the thought that you don't want to be 250 pounds. It's really, it just needs to be met with laughter because it's completely meaningless and stupid. It's really stupid. I don't know. I find myself having exercise every day at this point in time. It's really funny. You know, it's more like meditation, but, you know, might look like exercise. Some body doing some things. But, you know, this can come out of joy, not out of trying to get anything for the body. It can come out of pure joy, enjoyment. It's easy. Oh, you must have a lot of willpower. You do yoga for an hour or two every day? No, I have no willpower at all. I give all my willpower to the spirit. All my willpower is devoted to that, not to having a practice, not even a meditation practice. Because that's all surface stuff, and the surface stuff that could take care of itself. At first, when you get this, you might find yourself just kind of sitting there like, whoa, I don't have to do anything. But then the doing comes back. It just has a different quality. It's not like there's someone doing it. Notice if you think you've been productive. Notice if you think you've been productive today. Oh, I'm really productive today. I did all this stuff, had my workout, ate really good. You're like taking a tally of that. That could stop right in its tracks. And that's how you teach your mind that that shit is meaningless. Right in the middle of that thought about how great you've done today. Right in the middle of that thought, look at the feeling. Use your willpower in that moment to look at the feeling that that's coming out of. Let that thought just fall. That's how you show your mind. That's how you demonstrate to your mind that these thoughts mean nothing. The thought occurs to you, oh, I don't want to be 250 pounds, or I don't want to be broke. And you're meeting that with laughter. That's how you teach your mind that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to you. Oh, no, but I really don't want to be 250 pounds. Well, you know what? If you were 250 pounds, that would be exactly what you need to awaken your mind. What would you rather have? What would you rather have? A skinny body that's perpetuating an illusion? Or do you want to see through the illusion? I know everyone wants to see through the illusion. I don't even have to ask. A lot of people are going to say, no, I love this world. I want to keep this world. I still know. Because when it's seen what reality is, all of this stuff is forgotten. All of the beauty that you thought you saw here is kind of just a shadow of the beauty that reality is. All of the beauty that you thought was here. It just becomes completely meaningless. Look at all the beauty that you think you see here. Watch, and it fades. All of it. Nothing lasts. Nothing that you think you cherish in this world, none of it's going to last. And you're going toward it mentally, hankering for it is only leading to death. So why? What's the reason for wanting and not wanting anything here? Which is the same thing. And look at what wants. It's not like it's bad to want. It's just laughable. It's play. It doesn't mean you have to do anything. It never meant you were capable of doing anything. And that's a really important point to understand, that you're not capable of doing anything. You're viewing the doing. You're viewing the doership. So when it's like, I wish I was doing it like the way I was doing it before and not like the way I'm doing it now, that's just a guilty thought. Before, they were giving me so much more loving attention, and now they're not. Good. Change of direction. Perfect. Any attention that you get from people in the world, it's all temporary too. Isn't that fun? And as the attention changes, it's directional for your mind only. It doesn't even need to concern you in that way. It's all playing out the way it does. There's a lot of energy that goes into, I wonder what they're thinking about me. They haven't called. They haven't returned my text. For instance, my sister called me yesterday, and I could hear in her tone, I could sense that there was something going on. And she's like, tells me a big story about why she didn't call me back. And I was like, well, you're all good because I forgot I ever called you. I didn't even know I was waiting for a return call. I'm just happy to hear from you. You know, there's this automatic like, oh no, I haven't gotten back to them. Or it's like you have these duties. Or they have some kind of obligation to you. We have no duties and no obligations. And everyone can teach their mind right now and in every moment that it occurs to them that there are no duties and no obligations. No one has any duties or obligations to you. If they think that you have a duty or obligation to them, watch your reaction. And let the Spirit guide you on how to communicate in that instance. It'll be way easier for you and come way more natural for you if you're watching how you're holding other people as if they're obligated to you because they're your whatever. Neighbor, child, parent, sibling. They're supposed to be a certain way. Someone develops a relationship with you and all of a sudden they're supposed to be a certain way. This relationship is supposed to go a certain way. When all the people are so fickle, they're just changeful. They can just come and go. They can be like they are in the moment. But the ego is like, oh, I just want to make this moment last forever. I want you to be like this for me forever. When people are more like they're like flowing, like a river. They can meander. They can go in different directions. That doesn't need to take you off balance, and it doesn't need to take you off center. They maybe flow away from you. They seem disinterested in you. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your interest and thank you for your disinterest. It's the same. It's directional. The sense of self, the thoughts that make the self up will take care of the direction. But when it's like, oh no, I need way more from that person, from that particular person, that's what teaches your mind that you're vulnerable. I know it's a big thing in spirituality now that to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable. It's all just show our vulnerability. Well, that might be a word for, just showing what's real for you, what's alive, what's true for you. Okay. But you're not vulnerable to anything. That means you're not vulnerable to someone leaving you if you are not talking to you or becoming disinterested in you. If you feel upset about that, you made that. You're not vulnerable to them doing anything. They're not even doing anything. They never came in the first place. How could they leave? You made an image of them appearing to you just so they could hurt you? You did that to yourself. They didn't do anything to you. Did it all to yourself. And I know that's hard to take for the ego. I did that all to myself. I stole from myself. I cheated on myself. Whatever it is. Whatever the deal is. But there's a freedom in that. Beneath the ego resistance to it, there's a real freedom in that. When I was getting married I don't know, it was 99, whatever years that is. When I was getting married back in 99, my husband goes, "Are you nervous about marrying me?" And I go, "No, there's always divorce." And he was like, half offended, but then like, hey, there's freedom in that. Like, that's not an obligation right there. Like, we're going to be hanging out as long as it's cool. As long as there's joy in hanging out. That's how it is. We're not stuck. And why would anyone want to stick another person who's not enjoying your company? And why would that be something that's taken personal too? It's all just an ego game. It's wanting the form over the substance. It's wanting the body in the space, which doesn't mean anything. Don't need a body to communicate. The body doesn't have to be in the space or on the phone or on the internet to communicate. Communication is constant. Every time you're teaching your mind that there's no separation, that's communication. But when you're teaching your mind that there is separation, that's non-communication. That means it has no effect. It may have effects that you can see, but you're not really seeing that. That's not real seeing. Real seeing is only truth. You're viewing something through the lens of perception. But that doesn't mean it really happened, and that doesn't mean it's a real effect. Perception is completely meaningless. And only eternity is real. Only creating is in eternity. So with no separation, even when it seems like bodies are separate or you can't reach out to them, or maybe it seems like they're dead. That seems like a really big separation. For some people, that means that they can communicate better, though. The wall of the body is gone. But regardless, whenever you have a thought of that person, thought of missing, for instance, missing is an ego thought. And don't get me wrong, I love it. People tell me they miss me all the time. I love it. I don't correct them. It's like, oh, I love you too. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm saying for your mind, when it seems like you miss someone or something, I know people around here have expressed that they miss ecstatic dance. Someone or something, that missing, that's an energy that's saying that you're something that you're not. It's making you vulnerable to the world. Oh, yeah. It's making it just in your mind. It doesn't really make you vulnerable, but just in your mind, it's making you vulnerable to worldly effects. So even in I'm missing something, I'm missing this person, I'm missing a warm body being in bed with me at night, for instance. I've heard that one lately. Anything like that. That's an opportunity. That's an opportunity. Don't believe that you're missing for reals. Because you're not. You're not missing anything. There's only one of us. And it's complete. The idea of not seeing what you think you want to see is an ego idea. And this whole life has been an ego idea playing out. So it's in seeing it differently that it gets reversed. The whole thing gets reversed. The whole play gets played out on its own. It's almost like it gets played out and the energy plays itself out until it stops spinning like that. There's a heavy spin of these stories. It's a strong spin. It's going very fast. It starts to slow down as you're seeing it differently. So the invitation here is just willingness to see it differently. You don't have to try hard for this. Don't try hard. Don't work really hard. You don't have to try hard for this. It's more like a relaxed openness. It's like, oh. And that's where the Spirit informs you. And look, when you go through periods where it seems like you're confused or it seems like you're depressed or anything like that, be glad. Because new information is coming to you. Be glad about that. Be glad that you seem confused. Be glad that you seem upset. And you can be glad in that. You see that? You're like behind it. How you can be glad about that too. Like there's these layers. And everything that's upset or confused, it's like it's playing on the screen in front of you, but you're before that. So yes, you can be glad about it. I feel sad right now, but I'm glad about it. I feel scared right now, but I'm really glad about it. See? You see what I mean? Because really, you're not capable of getting sad. You're not capable of getting afraid. You're not capable of those things, but because you identify with them, it seems like it's happening to you. But it's not happening to you. It's more like happening in front of you, and you're before that. So you're the one making the choice before that, whether or not that's even about you. That sadness or the worried. It's more like, there's sadness. Oh, there's sadness. Oh, there's confusion. Oh, there's missing. Oh, there's wanting. What fun that all of this is occurring to me. And I've never changed. The one you are has never changed. You've believed the modifications that the mind set forth. Believed in the modifications, fall from grace. But belief is something that can be changed. It's just a matter of seeing that you made it up. You're not the person that you think you made. You can't make yourself, thank goodness. That would be a mess. Every one of us is a divine creation, having never changed. Change is for an illusory world. Changes and fluctuations for an illusory world. We think we need those things. Keep things interesting. There's even a thought, a belief about how God made this because God is bored with creation. It's so boring. It's so boring in creation. No one's doing anything. No one's dying or anything. No one's guilty. It's so boring. That's not the case, though. It's not the case that it's boring. You guys are going to love it so much. You're going to be so stoked and so relieved and surprised. Holy shit, this is what it is? Like that. And it's coming because everyone's worthy of it. And the thought of separation can't last for eternity, but it can seem like an eternity and go through a lot of lifetimes, lots of cycles of lifetimes where there's this willpower to hold it up, this will to make it real, to make this real. Make what was meant for teaching, that there's no separation, just that. Generalize everything. Let everything that seems to happen, every body that seems to come and go, just generalize it. It's all for that. You can say, I'm an example of someone too that has like a long-term relationship and seeing this way. Apparently there's a long-term relationship. Doesn't mean that that's a good or bad thing. But you could see how you don't have to just disregard everyone. And that's the way this is taken a lot. That's the way the ego understands this. First off, just disregard it. Oh, it doesn't mean anything, so I could treat you like that. Doesn't mean anything, so I'll just leave. There you are making a choice again, thinking you're making a choice anyways. And whenever there's thinking you make a choice, you make apparent effects. Seem to be wrong. But when you know you don't make a choice, you just hold it and let it play out the way it does. There's so much love. There's so much communion. If any relationship needs to fall away, then it will. But there's no one making a choice about it. There's no, oh, I'll just leave. They're not good enough for me. They're boring me. Consciousness is not high enough for me. But in taking in all of the sensation and taking in all of the reaction, then there's communion with each other. And you could see exactly what usefulness this is right now in the moment. Not going forward. You don't know. Anything could occur. People go, do you think you and your husband will ever break up? I don't know. Anything could occur. I'm stoked to see what happens.
How do you know? Like, you're not a doer, but if you think you're doing something, like, oh, he's boring, I don't want to be with him anymore, or, you know, whatever you were just saying.
Yeah. Well, the thought that occurs to you right there, the thought that occurs to you is not for you like that. You know, so look at the feeling that comes along with it. The feeling that comes along with it is a sense of doership. Like now you have to do something about it. See? So I just tune my attention to that feeling. I've gone through this. That's how I know. You know, I've gone through this. There was a period of time where I wasn't sure if but you know, I kept on looking back to the truth. The truth is I can't make a choice in this. I cannot make a choice here. But what I am making a choice about in every moment is the difference between truth and illusion. That's what I'm making a choice about. So that thought, maybe I'll just leave, that identifies me as the doer. And I could sense that thought is identifying me as a doer, and accept what's really true in that moment and get some relief in that moment, because there's nothing to do. There's not even anyone to leave.
Mhm. So you're saying, like, if you let go of that thought and just be in the feeling, then you might stay or you might go.
Yeah,
But what guides that is where your mind is.
that's it.
Okay.
That's it, because it's all the mind playing out. So we talked before about having two guides in the mind.
Yeah.
One guide that you gave yourself. We'll call it the ego. That's the guide for getting what you want. Being around the people you want to be around, getting the body that you want, getting the money. The guide for getting what you want. And not that it works. I'm not saying it's good. It works. Sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. That's the nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the guide to counteract that ego guide in the mind, and that's the guide that's truth. It's pure truth. It's pure truth. So maybe I'll just leave them is coming from the ego thought system. That's coming from the ego thought system. For one, it's saying that I have a choice in who I'm with. I don't. That's totally make believe. There's no choice in who you're with. It's really funny. And also that I have to do something. I have something to do. There's something that I need to do. See? And just in leaving it open so it can shift and go however it goes. Leaving the illusion however it goes, whatever comes out of my mouth. At one point I found myself having a conversation with my husband, and I thought I was going to tell my husband, it's time for us. It's been a good time. It's time for us to go another way. And the conversation just started and it changed. I was like, oh, interesting. So I don't have to keep anything. I don't like if there seems to be it seems to be going this even this is exciting, it seems to be going this way. Ooh, what's gonna happen next? I don't have to hold to anything and listening for the spirit's guidance, because the whole my expression, all the words, actions, everything are taking care of themselves, and they're coming out of one guide or the other. The expression is coming as an effect of following one guide or the other in the mind. That's
And
all it
comes
is.
through feeling, like it feels lighter.
That's right. That's right. You can feel it. There's a stark contrast between the ego thought system and, you could say, the spirit's thought system. There's a stark contrast between those that for a while most people don't recognize that there is. There's a definite line and there's a contrast. So through feeling in the body's energy field, you're being guided. Through that feeling, you're being guided. So there will also be some tension, like some clenching up in the body where you don't want to feel certain things. So you noticing any tension, anything like that, and just in allowing the compassion to flow through, and knowing that any apparent choice that you think you made was right. It was totally right. No questions asked. No question. Yeah. Who's asking those kinds of questions? It's ego. And if you ask questions with the ego, you're going to get the ego's answer.
Mm-hmm. Bad.
Which, for most people, when they're praying or talking to the spirit, thinking that they're talking to the spirit, are asking questions of the ego. Did I do that right? Should I have made a different choice? What can I do? That's all associating with a doer, as a doer. I mean, notice how there's this sense like you just like pulled up your bootstraps and you're like, okay, I'm going to get this right. That's the ego. The spirit doesn't guide like that. The spirit guides in truth, and you could say that the spirit's guidance is also much quieter than the ego, so you have to be willing to listen to it. It's kind of like quieting the noise, quieting that chatter about if you did it right. If this feeling of sadness has any justification, Spirit will tell you, no, it's not justified. Just feel it. Just experience the sadness, but know that it has no justification. That's like holy fire. Then the sadness burns away all of the reasons that you thought existed for having sadness. But if you're justifying it, then that makes more occurrences of sadness, both in your own experience and projected out into the world. See? And like I said before, those effects are meaningless. So there's nothing to be guilty about. Those effects are totally meaningless and they never happened. Just because it's dream. Even the effects that you see in the world of the sadness that you made within yourself and now it's being projected out into the world, meaningless. It's nothing to be guilty about. It's something to learn from. And all the learning is for the mind. You can say that you don't even have anything to learn. All the learning is for the mind that thought that you were separate. Even the ego learns about who you are from you. Can never fully know who you are because it's made on the thought of separation. And the ego is made to uphold the thought of separation. And it is a thought. That's why it doesn't exist. But for the purposes of the dream, it exists. And for the purposes of escaping from the dream, it exists. So don't try to deny it. But laugh when it presents itself. Just laugh when it presents itself, because your mind is way more powerful than that. Your mind has all power, and your ego will tell you that your mind has no power. Whatever it thinks is just benign. Doesn't mean anything. But those thoughts, they have immense power. Doesn't mean you have to get all vigilant with it. Notice softly, gently. The thoughts have immense power to make illusions. And in creation, they have, in eternity, they have the power of creation. But it's important to see the distinction, too, between creation and making illusions. Here we make illusions, so that's why it seems like our actions have effects that could harm people, that could harm the earth, that could harm everything. Whatever I do, I'm screwing things up. But that's not creation. It's not eternal. It doesn't mean anything, and it's already gone. So don't hold yourself guilty. Only you can carry that guilty feeling forward and make that guilty thought meaningful, like you actually did something. Oh no, I did something to affect someone. No, that was only for learning. It's only for seeing through. It's only for seeing who you really are. Just even the idea that you affected someone wrongly. I've heard from parents about how they've raised their children wrong and now their children are like this. It's like, release them from that thought. They got exactly what they needed. Nothing more, nothing less. Release them from the idea that you did something to harm them and now they are a bad way. Now they're messed up. Same thing with children. Release the parent from the idea that they raised you wrong. From the idea that they taught you the wrong way of being because they taught you that illusions were true, for instance. That's what you wanted. They're not teaching you anything that you didn't want to be taught. You could say you taught them to teach you. It's all a game that we're playing together for seeing that we've never left. We've never left truth. We've never left creation. This is all a game that we're making up together. And it's very playful and very loving, and we can come into compassionate communication with everyone, whether we're physically in connection with them or not, into compassionate communication with everyone who occurs to us. With everyone who occurs to us. And that's basically forgiveness, forgiving them for what they didn't do. They weren't capable of doing anything. You made it up. In fact, you're making it up right now if you're thinking about it. So hooray, everyone.
Yay.
We are so blessed. Does anyone have any questions? Or need clarification? Yes.
I'm thinking about something I remember hearing a bunch of wisdom dialogues ago.
Okay.
But, you talked about relating to a child that is crying, and like you said, you don't need to teach them anything. That usually you just comfort them. But then, yeah, what does comforting look like to you?
Well, the child is within. So it comes back to that. So it could look like anything on the surface. That's not important. Remember, the surface of it is meaningless since you don't have a choice on how your comforting is gonna look. You don't have any choice. So you're allowing the compassion for the child that's crying within. It only seems to be without. It only seems to be out there. It only seems to be even, Mommy, how can you do this to me? Or whatever the case may be. It's coming from within, and it's felt first. You could say it's coming from the mind. That's what I mean by within. It's coming from the mind, and it's projected first. Very first projection is to the body's energy field. And that's why that crying child can be felt within. And when that crying child is felt within, you're allowing compassion for it there. And then that spills forward in whatever way it does. No one needs to try to figure out how that should look, because it really spills forward in the way that it does. And when we're not trying to manage our actions, we can be more alert to when there is some kind of upset and allow more compassion for that whenever it arises. When we're not thinking about how we're going to manage our actions. Yeah, it takes some reconditioning. It takes some reconditioning to see and live in that way. So if you feel drawn to it, if you feel drawn to being reconditioned in this way, and everyone will at some point in time, maybe your time is now, to be reconditioned in this way, then keep on reminding yourself in some way. You can use my stuff. You could use my podcasts, videos, got probably thousands of hours, just to hear it again and again and again. Or you can use like Muji or Eckhart Tolle or whatever it is that resonates for you. Your own voice. You could record it, play it again. Whatever it is that works for you. The reconditioning needs to take place, though, because the worldly thoughts are the most practiced. And when you go around and you talk to all the people that you've taught to uphold the world with you, you've agreed with them to uphold the world, and you taught them how to do that, the worldly thoughts are always being presented. When you go to the store, when you just have casual conversation, whatever. Technical support, one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I had a of course, lesson just the other day that said, I do not know my own best interests.
Good.
And it brought you through a series of the situation where so and so and what I wanted to happen was this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I wrote down the things, and I want you to look at those as goals. Like, and then when you do, even though they're good goals, like I want connection, or I want something good, it's still in the illusory world, and it's still I'm trying. When I'm trying to manage my own best interest, like if I think I know my own best interest,
Yeah.
I'm too busy to feel spirit.
Yes.
Is the point, I think.
That's exactly right. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's not noticed, but this ends up taking over all your thoughts about going after your own best interest. And that's the same as thinking you know what you want and don't want. Let it all happen and be glad that you are who you are. And you're using whatever seems to happen for getting back to reality, restoring your mind back to sanity. This is insanity. We're just in a journey in insanity right now. It's funny.
And it seems like the interests are always changing.
That's
Like,
right,
one day I
too.
have one interest, and the next day it's the complete opposite
Yep.
of that interest. It's like I never know what I want.
Yeah, because it's insane and it makes no sense.
Wow.
House of mirrors.
She said, like, instead of thinking about, you know, what I want and don't want, just like letting it happen. Is it like included in that though to be tuned in each moment of like what feels like a yes and what feels like a no, and so just like not planning in the future and thinking like, oh yeah, this is what I want and going after it, or this is what I don't want, trying to resist, but just like being fully present and being tuned into like what is arising in the body, in the energy field, for like, you know, and let that guide into like in the moment of like going towards like, you know, what feels best.
You know what? Even when it seems like you made that choice, that's a convincing illusion. Even when it seems like you made that choice on the surface, that's a convincing illusion. You didn't make that choice. You never made that choice. So just in detaching from the idea that you have any choice to make in illusory things, that's what keeps you alert to the only choice that you can make that's before all of the illusions. It doesn't matter. You know, when you're weighing whether this option or this option feels good to me, fine. It's not meaningful. It doesn't really take you doing anything about it, and the choice that comes out is completely meaningless. It doesn't matter either way. So that's the thing. It's no problem, but you're before that. You're before that, and you're making a choice before any of those apparent choices are there. So this is unimportant. The choice that seems to be made that comes from you is unimportant.
Because it's already like been chosen by creation.
No, it's not like that. It's just a play. It's a play of the mind. This is not creation. This is nonsense, made up nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. This is not creation. It hasn't been chosen by creation or anything like that. It's just a play of mind that thinks it's separate. So whatever way you go, it doesn't matter. And when you realize that whatever way you go, it doesn't matter, you're not going to get distracted by your apparent choices, or you're not going to get distracted by what apparent choices you made before, and you're going to be able to make the choice for truth right now. The only thing that prevents people from making the choice for truth, well, one is knowing that they have that choice in the first place. And two is being distracted by all these apparent choices on the surface. You're not making that choice. It's like, oh, I will find out what I choose when I choose it, and it'll be a surprise to me too. So hooray! Is it time for music? Who's got music? You have music today, Leah? You have music today, Herba?
I have my guitar, but I'd have to have a little intermission and
Oh, okay.
tune it in.
Well, I'll just sing a little song then, since we're used to having music.
Okay.
It's called Little Green Lizard.
All right.
Nice.
It just came to me. No, I've known it since I was a child, but it just came to me to sing it. Okay. Little green lizard lying in the grass, looking up to me and saying I'm free. 'Cause in my coat of many colors, I can be anything that I want to be. You see, I could be brown like the dirty, dusty ground, or I could be green like a big old tree. Oh, I could be blue like the sky so pretty, or I could be gray like the streets of the city. To a Jew, I become as a Jew, and to the Greek, I'm a Greek. And to the Catholic, I'm a Catholic. And to the hippie, I'm a freak. You see, I can be anything to anyone. You know, it don't really matter to me. 'Cause in my coat of many colors, I can be anything that I need to be.
Yay.
Yay! Thank you. All right. Thank you for joining, everyone. HopeJohnson.org is where you can see all the goods. You can get all the links. Someone's been posting highlights for me again, which is really fun. You can also get to the podcast. Woo! Get to the podcast that way. I recently announced that I stopped posting on Facebook as far as writing anyways, as far as writing goes. It just didn't resonate for me anymore. I don't know if it'll come back, but for the moment it's not occurring. So what I have to offer is the videos and stuff like that, which is super fun. And thank you for joining me. Aloha.